Good afternoon, everyone. Please take your seats. Just wanted to see if WWF was in the room or someone close to WWF's microphone. If you could press it and see if it is functioning. WWF. Do you want to take the floor, WWF, and see if it's working? I'm just testing WWF's microphone.
Thanks, Chair. We are here.
Thank you, WWF.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll start shortly. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll get started. Thank you. So I indicated this morning and yesterday that in this session I would start COM document 3, followed by 4 and then 5. So starting with COP19, Committee 2, Document 3, Draft Resolutions and Decisions of the Conference of the Parties. I'd like to invite Mexico to introduce the document. Mexico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Agradecemos a todos los miembros del grupo de trabajo del Plan de Acción de Temas Relacionados con Género por sus valiosas contribuciones en la discusión y revisión de los textos de la resolución y decisiones propuestas en el documento COP19 DOC25. También agradecemos a Panamá por presentar este documento para la consideración de este comité. El grupo de trabajo preparó el borrador de la resolución de género y el tráfico internacional de especies silvestres, de fauna y flora, y el borrador de las decisiones en el Plan de Acción de Género contenido en el documento COP19 COM2.3. El grupo de trabajo logró un acuerdo general en el lenguaje y la importancia de desarrollar un plan de acción para las CITES, reconociendo que el género es generalmente overlooked, y existe muy poco entendimiento sobre cómo el rol de género interactúa con otros factores identificados en asuntos relacionados con el tráfico internacional de especies silvestres de flora y fauna. El borrador de la resolución y el borrador de la decisión reflejan la relevancia crítica de los temas de género en el contexto de las CITES. El texto propuesto reconoce que las mujeres y las niñas están involucradas de manera integral en la conservación y el uso sustentable de la biodiversidad y la protección de especies en riesgo. Y sin embargo, siguen enfrentando discriminación y se mantienen marginalizadas en el proceso de toma de decisiones y limitadas en el acceso y los beneficios del uso sustentable, del tráfico internacional y la protección de las especies de vida silvestre. Finalmente, el grupo de trabajo quiere reconocer que uno de los participantes no estuvo de acuerdo con con parte del lenguaje, como se aclara en la nota al pie incluida en el documento. Sin embargo, la mayoría de los miembros del grupo de trabajo recomendamos la adopción de ambos, el borrador de la resolución y el borrador de las decisiones. De este modo, presentamos esta versión final y revisada para la consideración del comité. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mexico. So I would open the floor to parties for comments on Committee 2, Document 3. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for giving Indonesia the floor. This intervention is made on behalf of a few countries, including Indonesia, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Jordan, Bahrain, Qatar, Egypt, the Syrian Arab Republic, Oman, Algeria, Tunisia, Sudan, Yemen, and Turkey. On this agenda, again, we would like to express our deep concern on the draft resolution and draft decision, which is still linking themselves to document 25, which at the beginning last week mentioned we don't agree because it includes the definition of gender, which many countries, many contracting parties, we never agreed upon. So it is a definition which has never been agreed by intergovernmental parties. During the working group, it was mentioned and promised that document 25 will not be the basis of this draft resolution and draft decision. But we still see that the document 25 is still being mentioned and referred to as the result of the result of the working group of gender paper, as reflected in document COM 2.3. It is because of this reason we, the countries I represent, and perhaps many others, in the spirit of compromise, we will be willing to compromise, but we need to provide some additional language to provide assurances that this concept provided in document 25 will not be the basis of this draft resolution and draft decision. So in the draft resolution, we request a new paragraph, if I may spell it, Madam Chair. In the draft resolution, we request another paragraph mentioning that, noting that the definition of gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concept of each contracting party. Again, I repeat again, our proposal is to include a new paragraph in the draft resolution mentioning that, noting that the definition of gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concepts of each contracting party. In addition to that, in the draft decision, again, in the spirit of compromise, we propose a footnote so all of us wouldn't have any problem in their gender concept. We propose a footnote in the title of the decision, or stating that for greater certainty, gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws and regulations and concept of each contracting party. Again, Madam Chair, a footnote in the draft decision stating that for greater certainty, gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concepts of each contracting party. We believe that this is a fair solution for everyone, so each country could have their own system and their own definition of gender without having any other country having to apply a concept which they do not agree. Please, Madam Chair and colleagues, for your kind consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia and parties. In addition to your views on the document, I would take your views on Indonesia's proposed amendments. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We note with a lot of interest the approach that this document has actually brought in the understanding of gender. And we, as Zimbabwe, have always understood gender actions, especially with the idea of the promotion of the participation and the non-discrimination of the girl child and the woman within conservation issues as being important. And that was part of our view as we approached the community's participation in conservation. Over and above that, Madam Chair, we fully accept and support the manner in which Indonesia has brought in wisdom to the understanding of the definition of the term gender, which in my view, and in the view of those that share the same, is a definition that makes this document acceptable to us. So we agree with Indonesia's view and think that in all the annotations that Indonesia seeks to add in terms of the footnote, as well as the extra definition that they are making there, we fully agree with it and want to go with it. We so submit, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. I don't currently have any other parties taking the floor to offer their views. I do now have Bolivia. Bolivia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Damos gracias y felicitamos a Panamá por el documento presentado, así como a las partes que trabajaron posteriormente. En ese sentido, Bolivia apoya las recomendaciones del presente documento, ya que es de vital importancia generar y proponer soluciones a desigualdades que tienen alta data histórica. Gracias.
Thank you, Bolivia. So I have 3 parties currently. I will take Mauritania, followed by Panama, followed by Colombia. Mauritania, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Si on remercie les auteurs de ce document, qui est au Mexico, et nous soutenons cette proposition en amendant les ajouts que l'Indonésie a demandé d'ajouter. Parce que si on prend la définition de genre, ça varie d'un pays à un autre. Nous, on voit toute personne qui est vulnérable, tout ce qui est lié à la vulnérabilité, que ce soit les filles et les femmes, les personnes handicapées, les personnes un peu qui sont un statut social un peu très défavorable. Donc, on soutient la proposition de l'Indonésie, tout en permettant d'avoir une vue d'ensemble de genre dans les différentes contrées. Je vous remercie, madame.
Thank you. Panama, you have the floor.
Buenas tardes con todas y todos. Agradecer a todos los países la aceptación de la propuesta de plan de género para CITES y especialmente al grupo de trabajo quienes aportaron ideas claves para este gran desafío. Invitamos a los países a sumarse a esta iniciativa en esta COP, donde se establece el marco estratégico o plan maestro para las CITES y en este sentido ir construyendo mayor entendimiento entre las partes sobre la temática, siempre respetando el contexto y la realidad cultural de cada país. Animamos a todos los países presentes en este comité a que apoyen la propuesta para así poder ir construyendo un plan de acción en donde nos permita construir data, tener mayor información estadística, mayor información de casos, de la realidad en cada país y así tener un plan de acción en ejecución a mediano plazo para las CITES. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Panama. I see Colombia and then Egypt. Colombia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nosotros agradecemos a los proponentes de este plan de acción en asuntos relacionados con el género. De igual forma, queremos agradecer el trabajo del grupo que se hizo posteriormente y consideramos que todas las propuestas de los diferentes países que conlleven a fortalecer este plan de acción son bienvenidos. Colombia reitera su apoyo. Muchísimas gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you, Colombia, Egypt, and then Somalia. Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We don't support the background as indicated in the document proposed by Panama on this action plan on gender-related matter. We cannot accept the definition of gender associated in the document. The only definition that we could accept on gender is one indicated in the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court that states gender refers to two sexes, male and female, within the context of the society. So we support the Indonesian situation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Egypt. I'll take Somalia. Somalia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Somalia supported the proposed amendments from the number of parties submitted by Indonesia regarding the definition of gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Somalia. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States supports the language as presented in the COM document and notes that this is a reasonable compromise arrived at by the working group, which offers flexibility for the countries that have raised the possibility of amendment. Thank you.
Chile, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nosotros consideramos que este es un tema de gran importancia. Le agradecemos a Panamá y a los miembros del grupo de trabajo por la propuesta y la apoyamos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Chile. I will take just a few more parties before we consider how to proceed. I will take Senegal and Niger. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le genre est un vocable maintenant commun dans tous les processus de développement socio-économique. On saurait l'ignorer. Ça permet de faire un équilibre allant du sexe à l'âge et aussi au cadre socio-professionnel et aussi les gens qui sont handicapés. Donc, dans tout développement, activité de développement, on doit être regardant par rapport au genre. Le Sénégal s'inscrit logiquement dans cette dynamique. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal, Niger, and then Argentina. Niger.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. À la suite de mon collègue du Sénégal, au niveau du genre, on sait que les autres groupes aussi vulnérables qui sont aussi contenus dans cette dynamique. Ça veut dire que la dynamique sera une dynamique globale, tenant en compte les besoins au niveau de chaque couche sociale. Le Niger soutient la proposition. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. So we'll take the two parties on my list now before I take a moment to consider Argentina and then Canada. Argentina, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Como ya lo expresamos anteriormente, la Argentina quiere apoyar este documento al que llegó el grupo de trabajo sobre cuestiones de género, en el entendimiento que la elaboración de un plan de acción de género para su aprobación en la CoP20 es algo de gran importancia, en consonancia con las políticas de género que a nivel nacional lleva nuestro país. En ese sentido, apoyamos el documento que ha sido elaborado por el grupo de trabajo. Gracias.
Thank you, Argentina. And now Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And Canada would very briefly firstly like to thank Mexico for leading these discussions and bringing us to this point where Canada strongly supports the outcomes of the working group in this document. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. I will take one or two observers on this matter so that we can hear your views. WWF, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. WWF apoya la propuesta de Panamá sobre el Plan de Acción de Género y el borrador de resolución que lo acompaña, y felicita las intervenciones de las partes y los resultados del grupo de trabajo. También reconocemos la voluntad de las partes en las CITES de adoptar un plan de acciones y medidas para asegurar la participación plena, igualitaria y efectiva de todas las personas, especialmente las mujeres y las niñas. A nivel internacional, los instrumentos de derechos humanos reconocen el término género como una construcción social dependiente de los contextos socioculturales de cada país. Con esta consideración, la propuesta del grupo de trabajo busca mejorar los esfuerzos para comprender el género y cómo interactúa con otros factores de identidad en asuntos relacionados con el comercio internacional, legal e ilegal de especies silvestres de fauna y flora, fomentando así el cumplimiento del Objetivo 5 de Desarrollo Sostenible sobre igualdad de género y el adelanto de los derechos de las mujeres y las niñas. Las acciones en las CITES a favor de la igualdad tienen que empezar a suceder ahora, del mismo modo que empezaron a suceder en relación con el involucramiento y participación de las juventudes cuando la resolución 17.5 fue adoptada por unanimidad en la COP17. La adopción de la resolución será la base para el desarrollo de instrumentos y medidas que contribuirán a mejorar las probabilidades de éxito en las acciones de conservación, las condiciones de vida y la gobernanza, y a reducir los conflictos, las desigualdades sociales y erradicar la violencia de género relacionada con el comercio internacional, legal e ilegal, de especies de fauna y flora silvestres. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, WWF. I have the European Union asking for the floor. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. Just in order to provide clarity, I'd like to say that the EU and its member states support the draft resolution and the draft decisions on the Gender Action Plan as contained in document CoP19, COM23. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to respond on the comment made by the WWF on human rights. It is clear that under Article 2 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, this is something that is not included as a human rights issue. I can read it to everyone. Everyone is entitled to all rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, and other status. So gender is not mentioned in the UN Declaration of Human Rights. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. So thank you, everyone. I'm glad we've had some time to discuss this proposal, and thank you for the manner in which you've conducted yourself. I know this is a sensitive topic for some. Having heard the positions indicated in the discussion, it's my view that although we have not reached agreement, I'd like to make it clear that I do hear disagreement on the floor. The majority of parties that I've heard from support the adoption of the document as submitted by the working group, so the original language presented in COM2 document 3. United Arab Emirates.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to clarify that we have actually counted the countries that support the addition by Indonesia, not the as it was submitted by the group, and we have 19 countries, and we only heard about 3 or 4 other countries actually. So how is that the majority?
Certainly, thank you, United Arab Emirates. I was counting similar to you until we heard from the European Union on behalf of their member states. So that is 27. Botswana, I will take a brief intervention from you. I think I'm summing up here, and unless somebody would like to challenge my summation, I'd like to move on. Botswana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just on a matter of procedure, Chair, I think Indonesia had mentioned that representing a number of parties, and I think it's rather unfair for the summary you've just outlined. For the record, Botswana does support the submission by Indonesia, and we trust there are many other parties that do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Botswana. I have counted the parties that Indonesia read into the record, as well as the parties that have spoken in support. I'm happy to add you to that list. I think rather than going back and forth here and hearing every single party's views, I think that I would like to suggest that we vote on the adoption of this document. We do need to progress this, and I do want to be respectful of everybody's views. And so in that sense, I would call a vote. So I will give everyone a moment to take their seats and put their cards or call their colleagues if they need to. To clarify, this will be 2 votes. The first will be a vote on the amended proposal that we have on the table, which is Indonesia's proposal. The rules of procedure state that you take an amended proposal first, and then if necessary, you take the decision on the original proposal. So we will take Indonesia's amended proposal first. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Hello. Yes, Madam Chair. So just to clarify again, so this voting we're going to pursue first is to decide on Indonesia's proposals on amendments to the draft resolutions and draft decisions, which includes a paragraph clarifying that gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concepts of each contracting party. Is that it? That's correct, Madam Chair?
That is correct,
Thank you, Madam
Indonesia.
Chair.
That is your amended proposal. Before we get there, because I'm giving everyone just a moment to collect themselves, I will read, and hopefully I've captured correctly your proposed amendments, so I will read those. We are taking Indonesia's amended proposal, the amendment to the resolution alongside the amendment to the decisions, the footnote that Indonesia has requested. Bahrain, you have the floor.
If we move to a vote, we suggest to go for secret ballots.
So that we're all clear, I'm just going to have the experts from the Secretariat just explain exactly what we are voting on. They are more articulate on this than I am. Secretariat.
Thank you, Chair. Just to avoid any confusion, the idea is that you first express your opinion on the amendment to the document put forward by Indonesia and supported by many countries. If that amendment is accepted, you can then express your view on the amended proposal. If the amendment is not accepted, you can express your view on the original proposal. So there will be a two-step process where you first consider the amendment to the document. Depending on the outcome of that decision, you then go back and express your view on the document either as amended or as originally put forward by the working group. I hope that's clear. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretariat. Indonesia?
Yes, Madam Chair. I was ready to vote. We were ready to vote, and we support the request made by Bahrain and many others to have a secret bailout. But before that, I wonder, Madam Chair, what would be the problem of accepting Indonesian proposal? Because every country will use its own definition. I just wonder, maybe one country can explain to Indonesia what will be the problem, because based on our proposal, each country will maintain their own system. Nobody will impose their system to anybody. I just wonder that question, Madam Chair. Maybe perhaps we could provide a little time to the membership to discuss this matter, because we are not imposing anything, our views to anyone, and we don't want some other countries to impose their view to us. And I think it's fair enough for everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe just a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Indonesia. I have considered your request. However, given that we've been here for a week, we have had a working group, we have had some discussion today. Parties have expressed the positions that they intend to take. Although I would like to offer you that clarity, as the chair, I'm proposing that we continue to vote on the amendment proposal, as the Secretariat has clarified. I don't have anybody else asking for the floor to offer their comments on your question, Indonesia. And on that basis, I'm taking it that we're happy to proceed. So we are proceeding to an vote on the amendment proposal. I have heard a call for a secret ballot, but before I follow that, just acknowledging I have not forgotten that, European Union, I just wanted to clarify the voting arrangements for the European Union on document 25, European Union.
Thank you, Madam Chair. the voting arrangement for document 25 for the European Union will be a member state vote. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Indonesia, I have started the voting procedure, so the rules of procedure say that we have to proceed. I haven't given you the floor, Indonesia. I've started a voting procedure. So the first step that I'm required to take is to table the request for a secret ballot that Bahrain has made. The rules of procedure say that we must take secondees for the secret ballot. Those secondees will not be made public. If you would like to second the call for a secret ballot on the amendment proposal from Indonesia, you may press your voting buttons. Okay, that is sufficient. I have enough secondees for a secret ballot. You can all press your buttons again to remove your flags. So I had a request in the Bureau to read the amendments that we are deciding on immediately before the vote. So I've taken that advice. I will read them now so that we're all clear. So the amendment proposal from Indonesia would insert a paragraph in the draft resolution in CoP19 COM2 Doc 3 that would read, noting that the definition of gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concepts of each contracting party. And then Indonesia has requested a footnote in the heading of the draft decisions that are included in COP19 COM2 Document 3, which would read, for greater certainty, gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concepts of each contracting party. If you vote yes in this secret ballot, you are supporting the amendments. If you vote no, you are not supporting the amendments. So this is a vote for agenda item COP19 document 25. The voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the individual member states. Since this is a vote on a substantive matter, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. Parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now. Technicians, please show the result on the main screen. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States would like the record to reflect that we voted no on the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. Noted. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the EU and its member states, we deeply regret that this ballot was cast in secret. We believe that transparency is important in the functioning of the convention. Stakeholders and the public should know what happens in this forum and how their representatives vote. The EU and its member states request the record to reflect that their vote was cast no. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Noted for the record. So the amendment proposal was not adopted by a 2/3 majority as is required by the rules of procedure. So we will proceed to a vote on the original proposal as submitted in CoP19 Committee 2 Document 3. Bahrain, you have the floor.
Bahrain again would like to go for secret ballots.
Thank you, Bahrain. Bahrain has called for a secret ballot. I will take parties in support of a secret ballot. Thank you, everyone. That's sufficient for the secret ballot. So this is a vote for CoP19 Document 25. The voting type is by secret ballot. The vote of the European Union will be cast by the individual member states. Since this is a vote on a substantive matter, the decision will be adopted by a 2/3 majority. So I've committed to being clear before I call the vote. This is a vote to agree to the draft resolutions and decisions in CoP19 Committee 2 Document 3 as submitted to the committee. Thank you, technicians. Parties, you have 40 seconds to cast your vote. The ballot is open now.
May I ask delegates and participants not to be walking around during the vote? Thank you.
Technicians, please show the result on the main screen. So the decisions and resolution in COM2, Document 3 are adopted by a 2/3 majority. European Union.
The EU and its member states request the record to reflect that the vote was cast yes. Thank you.
Thank you, EU. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States would like to align with the comments of the European Union and would like the record to reflect that we voted yes.
Thank you, United States. Noted. And European Union noted. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Switzerland voted yes.
Thank you, Switzerland. Indonesia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are really saddened with the results, of course. We just want also to put in the record that we, in the spirit of compromise, did propose, not only Indonesia and many countries did propose a landing zone, a compromise solution for this, but we are a bit disappointed that somehow it is not supported by countries. And in this regard, even though the document is adopted, we would like to put it in the record, in the summary record, a declaration for Indonesia, that for Indonesia, gender shall be defined in accordance with the laws and regulations and concepts of each contracting party. Again, we would like to put it in the record, in the summary record, that for Indonesia, gender will be defined in accordance with the laws, regulations, and concept of each contracting party. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Indonesia. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Solicitamos que quede registrado que el voto de la delegación de México fue a favor, en favor de la inclusión y la equidad de nuestra convención. Gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. Argentina.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Quería dejar asentado que el voto de Argentina fue a favor y que en la enmienda anterior hemos votado en contra. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Argentina. Bahrain, you have the floor.
Bahrain would like to make a reservation in this document, and it is not binding for us, and we would like to align our position with Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahrain. Chile, followed by Australia. Chile.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Quisiéramos que conste en acta que Chile votó a favor del Plan de Acción en materia de género. Gracias.
Thank you, Chile. Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Australia would like to note for the record that we voted yes for the document and no for the previous one. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. I have Guinea-Bissau asking for the floor. Guinea-Bissau.
Gracias, Presidenta. Después de escuchar la propuesta, llegamos a la conclusión que Guinea-Bissau la apoya porque la propuesta es un aspecto importante del género. Y votamos sí. Gracias.
Thank you, Guinea-Bissau. Guatemala, you have the floor.
Señora Presidenta, queremos dejar que Guatemala quede en acta que votó a favor de la propuesta.
Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Zimbabwe would like to put it on record that we will stand by the resolution earlier that gender will be defined according to the statutes within our jurisdiction. And therefore, we enter a reservation on that.
Thank you, Zimbabwe. I'm trying to give everyone the floor who wants to put their record their vote. You'll appreciate that this is a challenge, so I'm just going to ask people to be as brief as possible and take the floor when absolutely necessary. Please, United Kingdom, then the UAE. United Kingdom.
Thanks. We'd just like to put on the record that we voted yes on that. Thank you.
Thank you, UK. United Arab Emirates.
We align our right with Bahrain in adding the fact that the UAE will be treating basically this the gender matter according to the procedures and legislation in the UAE.
Mauritania, you have the floor.
Oui, merci Madame la Présidente. Nous émettons des réserves sur cette proposition. Parce que cette proposition, elle n'embrasse pas ce que dit la définition du genre dans le contexte mondial. Et surtout dans le respect de la législation des pays qui sont souverains à garantir la sécurité et la dignité de leur population. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Mauritania. Liberia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Liberia would like to tell all parties to be, for it to be known, for it to be on record that Liberia voted yes.
Thank you, Liberia. New Zealand.
Thank you, Chair. New Zealand would like it on the record that New Zealand voted yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, New Zealand. Norway.
Thank you, Chair. Norway would like the record to say that Norway voted yes on this.
Thank you, Norway. Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to take this chance to clear that we are in an alliance with our colleagues from UAE, Bahrain, and Indonesia, and the definition made by Indonesia is our situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saudi Arabia. Algeria.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. L'Algérie a voté non pour cette proposition et en s'alignant à l'Indonésie, le Bahreïn, l'Arabie Saoudite, les Émirats Arabes Unis et la Mauritanie. On fait une réserve par rapport à la définition du genre. Merci.
Thank you. Colombia.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Quisiéramos que también quedara en acta la voto de Colombia por sí. Gracias.
Thank you, Colombia. I have Canada and then Japan. Canada.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Canada would like to put on the record that we voted yes for the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Canada. Japan.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Japan voted for yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Japan. Ethiopia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ethiopia voted in favor of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethiopia. Bolivia, followed by Guinea.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Queremos que queden hasta que Bolivia votó por el sí.
Thank you, Bolivia. Guinea.
Merci, Madame. Notre position est très claire. Nous votons oui pour ce document.
Thank you, Guinea. Kuwait.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, we vote no, and we are joining our colleague from Bahrain, Indonesia, United Arab Emirates, Saudi, and the others. The definition is depend on what the Indonesian said. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kuwait, and that is my list of speakers. I'd like to invite the Secretariat to take the floor to reflect on some comments we've heard after the conclusion of the vote.
Thank you, Chair. And
We are taking note of the different declarations expressed during this debate, but I would like to clarify that reservations cannot be entered against resolutions. So these are just announcements by the parties on how they intend to implement this resolution, but the term reservation is not appropriate for this type of announcements. Thank you.
Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to clarify what our chief legal just mentioned. Since, but declaration is still allowed, right? Just to confirm, because usually in international law we have declarations and reservations, and we assume since Juan only mentioned reservation, means declaration is still allowed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Secretariat.
Thank you very much, and to Indonesia. And the declaration in CITES means that your declaration will be put in the summary record, and that is made official. But in accordance with Article 23 of the Convention, the states only enter reservations with respect to the species, and in accordance with Article 15 and 16 of the treaty. So this clarification is correct. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. So we're hearing that everyone's declarations will be recorded. Kuwait.
Thank you, Chair. We know that reservation is only applied to a species, but as my colleague in Indonesia mentioned, we are have the right to declare our position that a gender will be defined as we see it appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kuwait. Yes, your declaration has been heard. Bahrain.
We would like to declare our position similar our colleagues from Indonesia and Kuwait. Thank you.
Thank you, Bahrain. I'd like to clarify that everybody who has made a statement, your declarations have already been recorded. So if I've already taken your statement, we don't need to hear from you again. We have recorded it. Egypt.
Thank you, Chair. We agree with the definition mentioned by Indonesia, Bahrain, and the Emirates and Kuwait. Thank you.
Thank you, Egypt. So I will take brief statements because we have a long program in front of us. I do want to hear from all of you, so please be brief if you can. Zambia and then Jordan. Zambia.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering why we had a secret ballot if we have to start declaring how we voted. I don't know.
Thank you, Zambia. You do not have to declare how you voted in a secret ballot. It seems that it is the preference of a great number of parties to do so. Obviously, it is entirely a party's choice whether they decide to declare their vote. Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We join Indonesia and other countries in their declaration. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. Now, not seeing Tunisia, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. La Tunisie s'aligne aux déclarations des pays comme l'Indonésie, la Jordanie, le Koweït, l'Algérie et les autres pays. Merci.
Thank you, Tunisia. Comoros.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Comme disaient tout à l'heure nos collègues, les Comores s'alignent à la définition déclarée par l'Indonésie et les autres pays. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, I would like to move on now, not seeing any requests for the floor, I would like to move on to our next ComDoc, please. We will consider COP19 Committee 2 Document 4. I will read its title in a second when I extract it from my folder. Okay, we turn to COP19 Committee 2 Document 4, which is entitled Revisions to Resolution Conf 11.21, Rev COP 18 on use of annotations in Appendices 1 and 2. Resolution Conf 4.6, Rev COP 18 on submission of draft resolutions, draft decisions and other documents for meetings of the Conference of the Parties. And Resolution 4.25, Rev COP 18 on reservations. Thank you. I was just seeking clarity on who might be introducing this document. The chair of the working group, Belgium. Thank you, Belgium. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. COM2 Document 4 contains the report of the drafting group, which met once in the evening of the 16th of November, and the document contains relevant changes to resolutions in relation to reservations and annotations and was agreed by consensus by the drafting group. I sincerely thank all the members for their very constructive participation on this complex topic, and I'm happy to present you the outcome of our deliberations, which are now before this committee to suggest for adoption by the Conference of the Parties. First of all, we propose changes to Resolution 11.21 Rev COP 18 on the use of annotations in Appendices 1 and 2. These changes are to make sure in future annotations that future annotations will not contain references to decisions or resolutions, and any key terms used in annotations are to be specified in the interpretation section of the appendices. The second change is to Resolution COM 4.6, Rev COP 18, on submission of draft resolutions, draft decisions, and other documents for meetings of the Conference of the Parties. A preambular sentence is added to recall parties of the fact that annotations should not contain references to resolutions or decisions. And for those annotations that already contain such a reference, any party wishing to propose a change to that resolution has to submit a proposal following Article 15 to update the reference of the resolution. The CITES Secretariat is also directed to no longer automatically update references to decisions and resolutions contained in annotations unless the annotation was amended in accordance with Article 15. Lastly, changes are suggested to ResCom 4.25, Rev COP 18 on reservations, to clarify the effect of a reservation taken to a change in the annotation of an already listed species, and to request the CITES Secretariat to maintain a table of parties having entered such reservations. It is now for this committee to decide on these changes and whether or not they can be recommended for adoption by the Conference of the Parties. Thank you.
Thank you, Belgium. So I will take party comments on COP19 COM2 Doc 4. So I will take silence as agreement, but I have Senegal requesting the floor. Senegal.
Oui, le Sénégal prenait la parole juste pour appuyer les conclusions du groupe de travail sur ce document qui est très important parce que les réserves telles que brandies à gauche et à droite remettraient en cause des acquis de 49 ans d'existence de la Convention. Donc nous voudrons ici féliciter le groupe de travail aux résultats auxquels ils sont parvenus. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. I'm sure the working group thanks you for your congratulations. Not seeing any other requests for the European Union.
Thank you, Chair. We just would like to also welcome the outcome, and we are grateful for all the members of the working group to come to the solution. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I'm also very grateful for the paper from the working group. So it is my summation based on our discussions that Committee 2 agrees to the amendments to Resolution Conf 11.21, RevCop now 19, use of annotations in Appendices 1 and 2 contained in COP19, COP2 Document 4, that we agree to the amendments to Resolution Conf 4.6 on submission of draft resolutions, draft decisions and other documents for meetings of the Conference of the Parties contained in the same document, and the amendments to Resolution 4.25, RevCop 18 on reservations. So we will move on to the third ComDoc I propose to take in this session. COP19 COM2 Document 5, Totoaba. It is the United States proposed edits to COP19 Document 29.2.1 regarding revision of decisions 18.292 to 18.295, and I'll turn to the United States. United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The United States is pleased to present COP19 COM2-5, which is aimed at updating and strengthening draft decisions 18.292 to 18.295, found in Annex 2 of the Secretariat's COP19 Doc 29.2.1. Our suggested edits are designed to bridge the gaps between COP19 Doc 29.2.1 and Doc 29.2.2 regarding revisions of decisions 18.292 to 18.295. We collaborated with Mexico in the preparation of this document, which combines our proposed edits in red font and incorporates some of Mexico's proposed edits in blue font. In short, these edits are designed to strengthen surveillance and enforcement of the zero tolerance area, ensure timely reporting, address demand reduction, stress the urgency for the study on Vaquita and Totoaba, and encourage transit and destination countries to report on implementation. We appreciate the cooperation from our friends from Mexico in getting to resolution here, and we urge the parties to support the proposed edits found in COP19 COM2.5 to the Secretariat's document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. So I will take comments from parties on the document COP19, COM2 document 5. I will take Mexico. Mexico, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Como bien lo indicó el delegado de Estados Unidos, fue un trabajo conjunto para buscar una serie de acciones que sean más equilibradas y realistas para mejorar la situación de esta especie. Agradecemos la apertura de la delegación de los Estados Unidos y reiterar que lo hemos hecho en el mejor espíritu de compromiso para continuar colaborando en abordar la gran problemática que implica evitar la pesca ilegal de esta especie y los daños colaterales a la vaquita. En ese sentido, bueno, ponemos a consideración. Nosotros hubiéramos querido quitar algunas partes que son un poco redundantes sobre la decisión 293, especialmente una serie de incisos en romano, pero justamente pensando en este espíritu de compromiso, ponemos a consideración del comité el documento como está. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mexico. I see Senegal followed by the European Union. Senegal.
Bon, il me semble que le Mexique et les États-Unis ont travaillé sur un document. Après, maintenant, je vois que le Mexique encore revient pour supprimer quelques passages qui semblent redondants. Bon, quand cela ne tienne, je voudrais remercier les deux pays pour le consensus auquel ils sont arrivés. Et comme j'aime CITES, c'est avec plaisir que le Sénégal accepte ces amendements sur une espèce qui porte en son nom, quelque part, mon nom. Donc, voilà. Je m'appelle Abba et là, il s'agit de Toto Abba. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal, European Union.
Thank you, Chair. The European Union and its member states support document COP25, and we thank Mexico and the United States for all their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Israel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The Totoaba issue is confronting us at a moment when the vaquita, as a consequence of Totoaba fishing, is critically endangered. It would be a tragedy of enormous proportions if this CITES-listed marine mammal slipped into extinction because of our failure to comply with the Convention's explicit doctrine concerning, quote, the urgency of taking appropriate measures. We need to act now. That said, Chair, we would have preferred to go a bit further, but we are now indeed in accord with the compromise proposal offered by the United States, and we urge colleagues to adopt them. Thank you.
Thank you, Israel. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We share the concerns raised by Israel, but we will support the document presented now.
Thank you, Switzerland. Thank you, everyone. I was just making sure I had all my Totoaba documents straight so I knew what decisions we were working from. So I have heard support from the committee for adopting the amendments in COP19 COM2 document 5, and I would like to thank particularly the United States and Mexico for the spirit in which they undertook this, the development of this document that I requested from them. So if we remind ourselves of our discussion several days ago on the two total arbor documents, COP19 documents 29.1 and 29.2, submitted by the Secretariat and the United States respectively. In their intervention, the United States indicated that they would work from the decisions in Annex 2 to document 29.2.1, which are the revised and new decisions on total arbor, and that is reflected in the first paragraph of the US's COMDOC as shared with Mexico. So those are the decisions that I am working from as amended in the COMDOC that we are discussing. So I will walk through the decisions of the committee so that I make sure that I am capturing all of the amendments that we have just agreed to. So on decision 18.292, which will be Rev COP19, we agree to the revised draft decision with the addition of new paragraph D in COM2 document 5, which is in the blue text for those following along in COMDOC 5 under paragraph 1, which reads, provide financial and in-kind support for the implementation of the study called for in decision 18.294. Paragraph C, to be presented before the 73rd meeting of the Standing Committee. The 70, I assume. I'm going to edit that for you, and I assume you don't mean 73rd. 77? 77th. So that will read before the 77th meeting of the Standing Committee. So that is the amendment to decision 18.292. Decision 18.293, directed to Mexico. We have amendments as outlined in paragraph 2A of Committee 2 Document 5, with the new amendments from the US outlined in red on top of the amendments in Annex 2 of Document 29.2.1. I won't read all of the amendments of that paragraph because we can see them in front of ourselves, and they are amendments to the text. Also in decision 18.293, they propose inserting under paragraph BI at the start of the paragraph, deploying the appropriate authorities with legal powers of seizure and arrest, together with the Navy, to effectively prevent fishers and vessels from fishing with prohibited gear in the Vaquita Refuge and from entering the zero tolerance area and then it would follow as amended in Annex 2 of COP19 document 29.2.1. Also in decision 18.293 paragraph F, they propose amendments to paragraph F regarding reporting from Mexico. I think those are straightforward and I will not read those into the record. In decision 18.294, paragraph C, we have amendments in both blue and red in the paragraph, reflecting the urgency of the matter, requirements for consultation with the Standing Committee through the Chair, and some timing for the undertaking of the study. I will not read those. I think those are straightforward. Also in decision 18.294, paragraph D, text changes to require the Secretariat to report to Standing Committee 77. Then we turn to new paragraph 19DD. They propose a new paragraph for draft decision 19DD to encourage parties to work to stop the supply of and demand for illegally sourced total arbor. So propose new paragraph C, support efforts to eliminate supply of and demand for illegally sourced specimens of total arbor to address and prevent their illegal trade. Mexico has also requested the addition of a new draft decision 19EE, directed to transit and destination countries. Transit and destination countries are encouraged to report on implementation of Decision 18.292 and 19DD to the 77th meeting of the Standing Committee. I don't have any business to do. And with that, I conclude that that is our recommendation on document 29.2.1. Okay, so we will move on. I will give you a moment, but we will go to CoP19 document 34, annual illegal trade reports. I would like to invite the Secretariat to take the floor. Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. The present document provides information on activities conducted regarding annual illegal trade reports from parties and to implement decisions 1875 and 1876 on annual illegal trade reports. Decision 1875 directed to the Director Secretariat to contract UNODC to establish, host and maintain a database for the storage and management of CITES illegal trade data. The Secretariat report in the document that the database has now been established and that up to June 2022, over 100,000 seizure records reported by parties through their annual illegal trade reports have been recorded in the CITES illegal trade database. The Secretariat further reports that UNODC is developing the data dissemination platform for the database, which will enable parties and IQIC partner organizations to directly access this data. Access to the data will help inform research, analysis, the decision-making of parties, and the development of law enforcement responses to wildlife crime. The document highlights that there is room for improvement regarding standardization of seizure data reporting using the guidelines for the preparation and submission of the CITES annual illegal trade report and the standard reporting template. Considering this, the Secretariat proposes to amend paragraph 3 in Resolution COMF 11.17, Rev COP 18, on national reports as set out in Annex 1. Parties are also strongly encouraged to submit their annual illegal trade reports to address existing data gaps, and in this context, the Secretariat proposes Draft Decision 19AA presented in Annex 2. The Secretariat notes that further capacity building is needed, particularly in regions with low annual illegal trade report submission rates. To support parties in improving overall submission rates and to improve the quality of data, the Secretariat proposes Draft Decision 19BB, Paragraph B, as presented in Annex 2. The Secretariat also worked with UNODC to prepare a report for COP19 in accordance with paragraph 16 of Resolution COMF 11.3, Rev COP 18. The executive summary of the report entitled Analysis of CITES Annual Illegal Trade Reports 2016 to 2020 Seizure Data is available in Annex 3. The full report is available through a link provided in the document, and the report is also available on the Annual Illegal Trade Report webpage maintained on the CITES Secretariat website. The report includes information on annual illegal trade report coverage, an analysis of the basic characteristics of seizure data, a quality assessment of annual illegal trade reports, and highlights some options that could assist in further improving the quality of data. This is further elaborated upon in the document. The CITES illegal trade database is currently maintained through external funding, and the cost estimate for maintaining the database during the next intersessional period is presented in Annex 4 to the document. The Conference of the Parties is invited in the document to adopt the amendment to Resolution COMF 11.17, Rev COP 18 on national reports contained in Annex 1, to adopt draft decisions 19AA and 19BB contained in Annex 2, and to delete decisions 1875 and 1876 on annual illegal trade reports. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. So I will open the floor for parties. I will ask you to continue our excellent progress from the last few sessions with your interventions focused on the recommendations of the paper, if at all possible, so that we can continue to keep up with our working program. We're nearly there. So I'll invite parties, if you'd like to comment on the document. Parties. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the EU and its member states, we would like to congratulate the Secretariat and the UNODC on the work done. We support the amendments to Resolution CONF 11.17 Ref COP 18, deletion of decisions 18.75 and 18.76 on annual illegal trade reports. We also generally support the proposed draft decisions 19AA and 19BB. However, regarding 19AA, while we acknowledge the importance of submitting annual illegal trade data, we would like to note that the first sentence includes a long-standing and reoccurring task, which should not be covered by a decision and is already covered by a resolution. We therefore suggest to delete it. With regard to the draft decision 19BB, we do share the concerns of the CITES Secretariat that long-term financial support of the database is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. China, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. China appreciates the efforts made by the Secretariat and the UNODC. It is important to interpret the seizure data in a correct manner to avoid damaging the global image of the parties or discouraging the law enforcement efforts. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, China. Guinea, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame. Nous remercions sincèrement le secrétariat pour ce document bien fourni. Dans le cadre de l'application de la loi sur la criminalité phonique, par exemple, au niveau de la Guinée, des mesures rigoureuses ont été prises. C'est ainsi qu'il y a eu des trafiquants qui ont été arrêtés et des trafiquants qui ont été effectivement arrêtés. Et ils ont suivi des peines allant de 6 à 2 ans d'emprisonnement ferme. Mais eu égard à tout ce qui est fourni comme effort au niveau de la Guinée, nous nous trouvons actuellement dans une situation un peu complexe parce que depuis 2013, je ne cesserai de le rappeler, nous nous trouvons sous sanction de la CITES. Donc nous souhaiterions qu'on nous accompagne pour la levée de cette sanction et que des moyens soient mis à disposition pour effectivement le financement des projets comme le parc, le projet ICCW. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Guinea. I don't have any other requests for the floor from parties. I would like to open the floor for observers. I will take UNODC.
Thank you, Chair. As explained by the CITES Secretariat, UNODC has made significant progress with the development of the CITES annual illegal trade report database. and data dissemination platform. The data platform is currently being tested by several parties prior to final refinement and launched as what we hope will be a very useful decision support tool for the parties. We were also pleased to complete the first analysis of the CITES annual illegal trade reports and to be able to provide the Secretariat with data used in a wide range of illegal trade analysis reported to recent meetings of a standing committee and to this conference of the parties. As noted in the Secretariat's report for this agenda item, work is ongoing to help parties improve completeness and consistency of reports and to increase submission rates. The global repository of seizure data submitted through the annual illegal trade report has already been proven to be useful. A further strengthening of this tool will better inform national and global considerations of remedial action. We pledge our ongoing support to release this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, UNODC, and my final observer will be EIA UK. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This intervention is made on behalf of EIA, ADM Capital Foundation, Eurogroup for Animals, Pan-African Sanctuary Alliance, Species Survival Network, 4Paws, Defenders of Wildlife, Oceana, Law of the Wild, David Shepherd Wildlife Foundation, Animal Welfare Institute, Pro-Wildlife, Humane Society International, and Born Free. We are largely supportive of the recommendations outlined in Document 34, but note the following. Wildlife crime is a serious threat to the conservation of endangered species. We are concerned that fewer than half of CITES parties submitted their annual illegal trade reports for 2020 by the deadline and encourage parties to expedite their reporting. When properly implemented, annual illegal trade reports are an essential tool for parties to better assess the threat posed by illegal wildlife trade and enhance their responses to wildlife crime. They are also an important measure of the implementation of the Convention by parties. While parties may be subject to compliance proceedings for failure to submit annual legal trade reports, there are currently no such consequences for the non-submission of annual illegal trade reports. This is a discrepancy suggesting that the seriousness and urgency of illegal wildlife trade is not adequately recognized under CITES. We encourage parties to demonstrate their commitment to tackling illegal wildlife trade by calling for an amendment to ResConf 11.17, Rev CoP 18, at paragraph 13A to include annual illegal trade reports, making the failure to submit annual illegal trade reports subject to potential compliance proceedings. We further recognize that annual illegal trade reports may contain sensitive information, but urge parties to consider making non-sensitive information publicly available, especially prosecution outcomes and conviction rates. Thank you.
Thank you, EIA UK. So seeing no other requests for the floor, it's my conclusion, based on this discussion, that we adopt the amendment to Resolution Conf 11.17 Rev CoP 18 on national reports contained in Annex 1, that in considering the draft decisions in Annex 2, we have heard a request not to adopt draft decision 19AA, so it's my conclusion that we do not agree to that decision, but that we agree to draft decision 19BB as outlined in Annex 2, and that we agree to delete decisions 18.75 and 18.76 on annual illegal trade reports. So I will turn us to COP19 document 35, Task Force on Illegal Trade in Specimens of CITES-listed tree species. This document has been submitted by the Standing Committee, so I'd like to invite the Chair of the Standing Committee to introduce the document. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. So we are looking at document 35, on Task Force on Illegal Trade in Specimens of CITES-listed tree species. In the document, we note that Decision 18.79 directed the Secretariat to convene a task force on illegal trade in specimens of CITES-listed tree species, and to report to the Standing Committee on the work of the task force. The document provides reporting on the work conducted and recommendations agreed by the Standing Committee. A task force meeting was convened online in February 2022, and at the 74th meeting of the committee, the Standing Committee reviewed the Secretariat's report and made recommendations as required. Illegal trade in CITES-listed tree species continues to be a matter of concern, and the task force meeting outcomes provide a basis for parties to take action to address this illegal trade. The Conference of the Parties is invited to take note of the present document and to delete decisions 18.79 and 18.80 on enforcement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of the Standing Committee. So I noted that the Secretariat had some comments on this document, and as I have occasionally done, I thought in this circumstance it might be useful for us to hear from the Secretariat, so we have their thoughts in mind when we consider it. So, Secretariat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the comments of the Secretariat in its comments on the document recommends that the Conference of the Parties adopt the recommendations proposed by the Standing Committee in paragraph 8 of the present document and additional draft decisions proposed by the Secretariat. As we have just heard from the Chair of the Standing Committee, illegal trade in CITES-listed tree species continues to be of concern, and indeed the task force meeting outcomes provide a very strong basis for parties to take action and address the illegal trade. And in this regard, the Secretariat proposes draft decisions 19AA, 19BB, and 19CC presented in paragraph F of its comments. The Secretariat also in its comments provide an update on work that has been undertaken since SC74. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Secretariat. So the Standing Committee has asked us to note the document, and the Secretariat has just suggested some draft decisions. Parties, you're free to consider any of those suggestions in your comments, so I will take your views. European Union.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The EU and its member states would like to commend the CITES Secretariat for organizing a meeting of the Task Force on Illegal Trade in Specimens of CITES-listed tree species, and thank to all participants for their work on this important topic. We agree that all recommendations tackle fundamental issues and would like to highlight in particular the need for stronger cooperation between parties and engagement with organizations like Interpol and the World Customs Organization, recognized also as crucial by the given task force. We support the decisions proposed by CITES Secretariat and deletion of the decision 1879 and 1880. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, European Union. United States, followed by Brazil. United States.
Thank you, Chair. The United States thanks the Standing Committee for submitting this document. We note the document and support the aim of the recommendations of the outcome document of the meeting of the CITES Task Force on Illegal Trade in Specimens of CITES-listed tree species, as outlined in Annex 1, and understand that the recommendations are non-binding. The United States has experienced much of the same challenges outlined in the outcome document. The United States has also experienced various schemes, including the presentation of false documents designed to hide the true origin of harvested timber abroad. Increased accountability and improved traceability systems are needed to stem the global illegal trade in timber. The United States supports the comments of the Secretariat to adopt draft decisions 19AA and 19CC. While we support draft decision 19BB, we believe paragraph B encompasses two separate activities. One, inspections of timber shipments, and two, risk assessments and national risk indicators. We recommend that these be separated into two parts and would seek further input from parties or the Standing Committee in order to ensure a manageable scope of work for the next intersessional period. We would recommend the following amendments to Decision 19BB, subparagraph B, to insert by experienced CITES enforcement officials after activities to provide training, create a 19BB, subparagraph C, to begin after affected by illegal trade in CITES listed tree species, striking out as well as to, and starting 19BB, subparagraph C, at where not done yet. With the suggested amendments, Decision 19BB, subparagraph B, would read, subject to external funding in cooperation with the UNODC WCO Container Control Program, work to undertake activities to provide training by experienced CITES enforcement officials on physical inspection of timber shipments in regions significantly affected by illegal trade in CITES listed tree species, and new subparagraph C, where not yet done, encourage and support the undertaking of risk assessments to develop national risk indicators specific to this illegal trade. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I have captured your suggestions. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brazil thanks the Standing Committee for the submission of Document 35. As an important tropical timber producer and international supplier, Brazil has been improving in the last 3 years a series of innovations on its command and control policies regarding to development of traceability mechanisms in the federal informational systems that controls timber production in Brazil, making possible the identification of all the stages of the chain of custody, since the orange to the final consumer, development of a new informational system that controls all the issuance of the export permits, on which adopting best practice on risk management analysis and evaluation of each cargo subjected for foreign trade, joint task forces between the Federal Environmental Agency, IBAMA, the Brazilian Federal Police, UNODC on the WCO CCP program, and Interpol, alongside to other parties, environmental agencies, together combating international trafficking on tropical timber. Contribution of the revised compendium of timber identification resources as requested by the CITES Secretariat, and presentations of our efforts to the CITES Secretariat enforcement team. While Brazil supports the adoption of the draft decision as stated on Document 35, we invite parties to get better knowledge about the Brazilian initiatives on the matter and to join us in combating illegal international trade of CITES-listed tree species. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brazil. Singapore, you have the floor.
Chair, Singapore commends the CITES Secretariat for organizing a very engaging virtual workshop despite the challenging circumstances of the pandemic. As part of the member of the Task Force on Illegal Trade in Specimens of CITES-listed tree species, we shared case studies on CITES-listed timber species seized by Singapore and the forensic techniques applied to identify and analyze the specimens. Last August, Singapore opened our Center for Wildlife Forensics. This will enhance our capabilities in wildlife forensic science, including chemical and molecular methods like DNA barcoding and genomics, to accurately identify animal and timber species. We are establishing reference databases of such species under the center. For example, we are building a reference collection of timber specimens in the Singapore Xylarium at the Singapore Botanic Gardens. The Center for Wildlife Forensics has been included in the CITES Directory of Wildlife Forensics. This will enable us to support other countries in investigating and prosecuting cases of illegal wildlife trade. We support the adoption of the draft decisions put forth by CITES Secretariat. We welcome parties to reach out to us for any potential collaboration and donation of timber specimens to contribute to our centralized database in the region. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Singapore. And I have India. India, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. India has amended its Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002 to include the provisions of illegal trade in protected flora and fauna as provided in Wildlife Protection Act 1972, which authorizes the Enforcement Directorate, which is a specialized agency, to take up financial investigations independently into the crime related to the species listed in Wildlife Protection Act. India has also developed a web application to generate CITES permits with robust security mechanisms. The CITES certificate and clearance systems are integrated with the customs ice gate system, leaving no scope for the document forgery. However, India looks forward to adopt and implement e-permits CITES system to issue CITES certificate. So all the shipping bills and the bill of entry related to CITES consignments filled up by the traders are subjected to scrutiny in the integrated risk management system with artificial intelligence enabled at the Indian Customs Ice Gate system. The Wildlife Crime Control Bureau under the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change keeps a watch on the trend and pattern of the wildlife crime and illegal wildlife trade across the country and organizes interagency coordination meetings frequently, ensuring participation of all stakeholder officials from various departments including forest, wildlife, police, customs, postal, airport, cargo, land and sea authorities to facilitate and secure cooperation and coordination required in controlling illegal trade in tree species. So despite all these efforts, we have seizures in CITES listed species at custom entry and exit points. So India agrees to implement the measures and activities outlined in the outcome document of CITES Task Force meeting on illegal trade in specimens of listed tree species as relevant to India as proposed in 19.8A of CoP19 Doc 35. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, India. India was my last party requesting the floor. I will take brief interventions for 1 or 2 observers. I don't have any observers asking for the floor. So with that, I think that we do note the document as we are requested. I have heard support for the agreement to the draft decisions as proposed by the CITES Secretariat. So I think that we agree to the draft decision 19AA directed to the parties. I think that we agree to draft decision 19BB directed to the Secretariat with the amendments proposed by the United States in paragraph little b. So the paragraph would read, subject to external funding in cooperation with the UN ODC WCO Container Control Program, work to undertake activities to provide training by experienced CITES enforcement officials, that's the insertion, on physical inspection of timber shipments in regions significantly affected by illegal trade in CITES listed tree species, and new subparagraph C. We're not yet done. Encourage and support the undertaking of risk assessments to develop national risk indicators specific to this illegal trade. And I think that we agree draft decision 19CC from the Secretariat. And I also conclude that we delete decisions 18.79 and 18.80 on enforcement. So we will move to CoP19 document 38. Demand reduction to combat illegal trade. This document has been submitted by the Standing Committee, so I'd like to invite the Standing Committee Chair to introduce the document. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So again, in reference to COP19, Doc 38, this document was submitted by the Standing Committee in response to decisions 18.86 and 18.87. The Secretariat reported to the 74th meeting of the Standing Committee on the development of a CITES guidance on demand reduction strategies to combat illegal trade, providing for a 5-step approach for demand reduction strategies. The document is found in Annex 3 of the present document. As this guidance is designed to facilitate implementation of Res Comp 17.4 on demand reduction strategies to combat illegal trade in CITES-listed species, the committee agreed to amendments to this resolution, and these are found in Annex 1 of the present document. Additionally, the committee agreed to present draft decisions to undertake training seminars and pilot projects on the use of the guidance. The Conference of the Parties is thus invited to adopt the amendments to Resolution Comp 17.4 contained in Annex 1 of the document, adopt the draft decisions contained in Annex 2 of the document, and take note of the CITES guidance on demand reduction strategies to combat illegal trade in CITES-listed species contained in Annex 3 of the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of the Standing Committee. I'll open the floor to parties to comment on the document. Thank you, parties. I see China, followed by the United States. China.
Thank you, Chair. China was represented at the online workshop in 2021 to review the guidance. Together with representatives from the relevant parties, we made comments on the structure of and the case studies presented in the guidance on the first day of the workshop. Unfortunately, due to time limitation, which precluded sufficient communication, those comments were not fully incorporated into the current version. We appreciate that the guidance has been adopted at SC 74, and we suggest that we take it slow and progressively implement the guidance. In this connection, we would like to propose the following amendment to Annex 1 and 2 to the Doc 38. With regard to the proposed amendments to the Resolution 70.4 in Annex 1, we suggest that the last paragraph of the preamble be retained as it serves to document the origin of the document. We also suggest that the new paragraph 3 proposed by the Secretariat be replaced with the following. I will read it slowly. Invites parties to refer to the CITES guidance on demand reduction strategies to combat illegal trade in CITES-listed species and to share cases and experiences on how to achieve consumer behavior change to enrich the guidance. As for the draft decisions on demand reduction to combat illegal trade presented in Annex 2, we suggest that the 19.cc, which is directed to the parties, be deleted, as we believe that the guidance still requires some work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, China. United States.
Thank you, Chair. We would take note of the guidance document, acknowledging it as a living document that will evolve over time. We support the draft decisions and the Secretariat's amendments. We also support the proposed amendments to Resolution Comp 17.4. We thank the Secretariat for its work in developing the guidance. This will help parties conduct targeted and effective demand reduction efforts rather than just raising awareness more generally. We also support the recommendation for tailored on-the-ground training for specific regions and countries in conjunction with the guidance document. We emphasize for all parties the importance of engaging social science and behavior change experts when carrying out interventions to reduce demand for illegal wildlife. These collaborations are key for making these efforts effective and for avoiding unintended consequences, such as shifting demand to other species and products. We note that demand reduction is one of 3 pillars of the United States National Strategy for Combating Wildlife Trafficking, and we were glad to support, along with other donors, the development of this guidance for CITES. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, United States. I will see Japan, followed by the European Union. Japan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Japan appreciates the completion of the guidance and the efforts made by the Secretariat and donor countries, as well as those contributed in its development. Japan commends this guidance and supports the recommendation to adopt the amendment to Resolution COP 17.4 in Annex 1 and the draft decision in Annex 2, and take note of the guidance contained in the current document. Japan believes reducing the demand for illegally traded specimens of CITES-listed species through an approach which promotes behavioral change by addressing values, drivers, and demand, together with appropriate regulation, is effective to combat illegal trade. Having said that, Japan would like to draw the attention of parties to the following 2 points. The first point is that, as stated in the second sentence of the 11th preamble paragraph of Resolution 17.4, Rev. CoP19, which reads, noting that legal and sustainable trade can be vital to rural livelihoods and consequently important to insect conservation, and that demand reduction campaigns must distinguish between legal and sustainable and illegal trade. The second point is that, as indicated in the IPBES thematic assessment report on values, which released in July 2022, it's necessary to reaffirm the diversity of values related to nature. Japan believes taking into account these 2 points is crucial when using the guidance in order to achieve its original objective of its development. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Japan. European Union, followed by Senegal. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the EU and its member states, we would like to thank the Standing Committee for preparing the document. We also would like to thank the Secretariat for the CITES guidance, and also thank the parties which provided financial contribution to the preparation of the guidance. We support the adoption of the guidance at COP19, and we would like to encourage parties to use the guidance and share their experience in its implementation. We also support the adoption of draft decisions and amendments to Resolution COP 17.4 as amended by the Secretariat to improve and reflect the availability of the guidance to parties in all CITES languages as a new tool. However, we would like to seek clarification from the Secretariat on what basis the recommendations on the follow-up activities, including the identification of priority species and markets, will be done. And linked to that, we would also like to propose an insertion in the draft decision 19AA.E, as amended by the Secretariat, to add at the end of the point, taking into account national and regional priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. Senegal, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Le Sénégal voudrait joindre sa voix pour remercier le secrétariat pour ce travail qui a été réalisé. La réduction de la demande sur les ressources est un facteur, est un fait qu'on ne peut pas occulter. Parce que si la demande est forte au niveau international, cela veut dire qu'il y aura une pression sur les ressources et là, on va tomber dans un processus de gestion des ressources qui n'est pas durable. Donc, j'invite les parties à accepter ce document et d'adopter ce document pour ce comportement, pour réduire la demande sur les ressources. Merci.
Thank you, Senegal. I will take a few more parties on this. So Thailand, followed by Peru. Thailand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thailand would like to thank the Standing Committee for preparing the document and the Secretariat for working on the guidance. Thailand supports the recommendation to adopt the recommendation to support the LESCON 17.4 on demand reduction strategy to combat illegal trade in CITES list species contained in Annex 1 to the present document. And we support the draft decision contained in Annex 2 with amendments made by the Secretariat to the Decision 19AAE delegated to the Secretariat and Decision 19BB delegated to the Standing Committee as appear in the page 3. Madam Chair, Thailand prioritized the demand reduction approach as strategy to combat illegal wildlife trade together with the law enforcement efforts. We have experience in applying the social behavior change campaign approach to design and launch the campaign to reduce demand on wildlife consumption, in particular ivory and tiger products. With support of the USAID Wildlife Asia program, the Reduced Demand for Wildlife program, Wild Aid and Traffic, we launched the Beautiful Without Ivory campaign and No Ivory and Tiger Emirate campaign to reduce demand on using ivory and tiger products. Most recently, with the cooperation with Traffic, the Kai Dining campaign was launched to address the illegal wild meat consumption. And the Mercy is Power campaign was also launched to address the inappropriate use of wildlife park as an emirate. Madam Chair, Thailand therefore would like to encourage parties to apply the social behavior change campaign contained in the CITES guidance on demand reduction strategies to combat illegal trade in CITES listed species contained in the Annex 3 of this document as a tool to implement the demand reduction initiatives in their respective country. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Thailand. I did say I would give Peru the floor. I have more parties asking for the floor than I can take because I have an entire day and a half more of an agenda to get through. So I will take Peru, and then I would ask any of the parties who have asked for the floor, who disagree with the summation that I will take after Peru's intervention, to consider whether they need to take the floor. So I will take Peru, then I will sum up, and then I will ask the parties who've requested the floor to reflect. Thank you, Peru. You have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señora Presidente. El enfoque de cambio de comportamiento propuesto representa una estrategia de largo plazo, pero de efecto duradero para la reducción de la demanda del tráfico ilegal de fauna silvestre y requiere del compromiso de los países de extracción, pero en especial de los países de destino. Perú, como país comprometido en este tema, tuvo la satisfacción de ser sede del taller regional para la aplicación de la guía para el desarrollo de estrategias de reducción de demanda para el combate del tráfico ilegal de fauna silvestre. Este taller, que se organizó con el financiamiento de DEFRA y el apoyo de Traffic y WCS a través de la Alianza por la Fauna Silvestre y los Bosques, financiado por la Unión Europea, contó con la participación de representantes de 12 países de América Latina. En este taller se siguieron los 5 pasos propuestos de la guía, pudiéndose adecuar a la realidad de nuestro continente. En ese sentido, Perú apoya firmemente la aprobación de este documento e insta a los países a trabajar de manera colaborativa en estrategias para la reducción de la demanda para combatir las cadenas de tráfico ilegal que vienen construyendo redes que abarcan los diferentes continentes. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Peru. So I said that I would sum up where I think the parties are at. I have heard support for the recommendations of this paper with some minor amendments that I will come to. And so I am asking the parties who've requested the floor who disagree with my conclusion that the committee generally supports the adoption of the amendments to Resolution 17.4 and decisions in Annex 2. Anyone who opposes that? Bolivia is the only party remaining on my list, so I will take Bolivia and then I will take one or two observers. Bolivia, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. En función a lo analizado y presentado, Bolivia recomienda la adopción de las recomendaciones.
Thank you, Bolivia. Benin, do you disagree with my assessment that in general, with some of the small amendments that we've seen, that my assessment is that we support? Do you disagree with me?
Okay. Merci Madame la Présidente. Non, le Bénin est d'accord juste par rapport à la décision 19CC. Pour le Bénin, si c'était possible peut-être de clarifier, parce que s'il s'agit de demander encore aux États de trouver des ressources pour procéder à la traduction donc, du guide dans les langues locales, ça pourrait devenir déjà un problème avec les problèmes de ressources que nous avons pour déjà mettre en œuvre convenablement. Donc c'était pour savoir si la décision 19CC, on pouvait l'enlever.
Thank you, Benin. So I have heard on 19CC, I have heard only one other party suggesting that we strike 19CC. I will add your voice to that concern. In general, I have heard support for the adoption of that decision. I wonder if we could find a middle ground for you. I wonder, China considers that the guidance needs work. However, I hear from the other speakers on this that they are supportive of adopting the guidance. So addressing your concern, Benin, I wonder if we could have parties are encouraged, subject to available resources, to translate the guidance. Benin, does that address your concern? Sorry, I have given Benin the floor.
Oui, Madame la Présidente, ça me convient parfaitement.
China, you have the floor.
Sorry, Chair. I just want you to make the clarification that you are intending to adopt this annex with small amendments, right?
That is the conclusion that I've
Thank
come
you.
to based on our discussions. I noted that you thought the guidance needed work, but in general, I see some support from the parties to work on that guidance. I've heard some parties describe it as a living document. So I've just offered a suggestion for Benin's comments. The Secretariat is offering also some clarification. Secretariat?
Yes, indeed, Madam Chair. As parties would have noticed, the Standing Committee is actually recommending in paragraph 9C for the parties to take note of the guidance, but not for adoption. As the delegation of United States mentioned, I think they recall clearly what during our communications, we do see this as a living document. As more experience information are collected, they can be built into the updated version of the guidance, although the Standing Committee as is SC74 has in principle agreed to the draft guidance. So just for clarification, thank you.
Thank you, Secretariat. I did want to take one or two observers, so I will do that briefly. Observers, if you would like the floor. Traffic, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Traffic would like to thank the governments of Germany, the United States, the United Kingdom and the European Commission for their support of various facets of this work, and to the Secretariat for their close collaboration. We hope the parties find the draft guidance useful and stand ready to assist parties in its application. Parties at the consultation workshop held in June 2021 under Decision 18.86b had expressed the need to deliver regional training and capacity building on the use of the guidance. Thanks to the support of the UK government, Traffic has been able to start work on this with a pilot in the South, Central and Latin American and Caribbean region. This included the workshop hosted by the government of Peru in September of this year, as noted by Peru, that introduced the draft guidance to parties in the region and provided capacity building around key elements. We would like to invite parties interested to hear more about this work to attend the side event on regional experience with the draft CITES guidance on demand reduction, which will be held tomorrow at lunchtime in Caribe 5. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Traffic. So with that, I am ready to sum up our discussions. So with regard to the amendments to Resolution COP 17.4 on demand reduction, I think we agree to those amendments. I note that China had requested the maintenance of the paragraph on recognising demand reduction initiatives in many countries, and although that is general and then referring to some specific past events, I think we can maintain it. I think there's any opposition to that. I do see support, however, for the amendment in paragraph 3, and not support for the alternative proposed by China. So with that, I think that we agree to the amendments to the resolution 17.4. With regard to the draft decisions contained in Annex 2 to the present document, I have heard support for draft decisions 19AA and 19BB as amended by the Secretariat in their comments, with the additional amendment from the European Union, which would add at the end of 19AA little e, taking into account national and regional priorities. So I think we agree to those decisions as amended, and I think that we agree to decision 19CC in Annex 2, with the addition of my amendment, which would read, parties are encouraged to, comma, insert subject to available resources, comma, and carry on. And I think that we note the CITES guidance on demand reduction strategies contained in Annex 3. And I also note, and I think we agree, that the Secretariat, we note the Secretariat's recommendation, and I think we agree, that we delete decisions 18.86 and 18.87 as they have been implemented. We are now catching up to our afternoon session. Thank you, everyone. I am very keen to keep on time if we possibly can. I counted today 14 ComDocs in this committee, and we have taken 5. So we have, by my count, at least 9 to do tomorrow unless something else comes up. And I would like to give those the time they deserve, but I would also like to make it through our working program. So with that in mind, I will just remind you to keep your interventions focused on the recommendations of the paper. So I will introduce CoP19 document 41, Electronic Systems and Information Technologies and Authentication and Control of Permits. This document has been submitted by the Standing Committee. I understand the Chair of the Standing Committee has asked Switzerland to introduce the document. Switzerland, you have the floor. Switzerland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are not yet ready to present the document. I apologize.
Thank you, Switzerland. Would you prefer I move on and come back?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Switzerland.
Ist das 41?
Ja.
Technicians, can you clear the microphones, please? Thank you. Switzerland, if you could let me know when you are ready, I would appreciate it, but we will move on. So with everybody's comfort, we will move on to document 45, labelling system for trade in caviar. This document has been submitted by the Standing Committee. So I'll invite the Chair of the Standing Committee to introduce the document. Canada, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So we are looking at CoP19, Doc 45 on labeling systems for trade in caviar. And this document was prepared in response to decision 18.146. So the Standing Committee considered the practical challenges in the implementation of the provisions of the Convention with the application of the CITES guidelines for a universal labeling system for the trade in and identification of caviar. And this has been a long, ongoing discussion, and its history is found in paragraph 4. An intersessional working group was formed and reported to the 74th meeting of the Standing Committee that it had focused on the practical challenge associated with the application of the caviar labeling system requirement to provide the ISO country code for the origin of caviar. The group concluded that it had not been able to identify a practical approach that addresses the complexity of agriculture production while also addressing concerns regarding the need to maintain transparent traceability systems in support of enforcement and ensuring legal sustainable trade. The Standing Committee further considered the information provided by the intersessional working group on the discussions relating to the benefits and drawbacks of using QR codes for labeling. The Standing Committee noted the report and agreed to propose the deletion of Decision 18.146, as well as the submission of new draft decisions, including a decision to consider reviewing opportunities to improve the functioning of the caviar labeling system, taking into account the study on identification of species, subspecies, source and origin of sturgeon and paddlefish. So the Conference of the Parties is invited to adopt the draft decisions contained in Annex 1 to the present document and delete Decision 18.146. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair of the Standing Committee. So parties, I'll open the floor for comments. European Union, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The European Union and its member states note that the Standing Committee has been trying to identify ways to improve the caviar labelling system that take into account the complexity of aquaculture production. They need to adopt transparent traceability systems, the goal to ensure legal and sustainable trade. But none of the options discussed in the past has attracted enough support. The report to the Standing Committee 74 of the International Working Group on the Labelling System for Trading Caviar showed that the assessment on using QR codes might inject new ideas into the debate that is worth exploring. Therefore, the EU and its member states support the decisions proposed by the Secretariat and suggest that the Standing Committee establishes an international working group that will work on the analysis and recommendations of the Secretariat once they are available. In this regard, we ask to insert in decision 19BB before letter A the following text. Establish an intersessional working group that will examine the analysis and recommendations of the Secretariat once they are available and report to the Standing Committee. The US member states support the deletion of decision 18.146. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. I'll take a moment if there's any other parties who would like to comment. I don't see any parties requesting the floor. Are there any observers who would like to take the floor on this document? Oh, now I see Georgia. Georgia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We consider the caviar labeling system as very important issue for the caviar trade and for conservation of the sturgeon, and we would like to support these decisions, including with the proposals from the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. So I don't see any other requests for the floor, so I will sum up on this one and just double checking that we have the right language from the EU. So in considering the decisions in Annex 1 to the present document and noting our discussions, I think that we agree on draft decision 19AA contained in Annex 1. We also agree on draft decision 19BB with the amendment from the European Union for a new paragraph little a. European Union will tell me if I get the language wrong. I hope we have got it. So establish an intersessional working group that will examine the analysis of the Secretariat referred to in 19AA when available and report to the Standing Committee. European Union, would you like to do a better job than me? EU, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small amendment to what you said. It was analysis and recommendations, just reflecting the content of the decision, the text of the decision 19AA. It was mirroring.
If I have it correct now, it is new paragraph little a, establish an intersessional working group that will examine the analysis and recommendations of the Secretariat referred to in decision 19AA when available and report to the Standing Committee. Okay, we have that. So I conclude that we agree to those draft decisions with the amendments that I've just noted, and I conclude that we agree to delete decision 18.146. I will come back to Switzerland to see if I can get confirmation we are ready to go. Switzerland.
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for our miscommunication. I present document 42 on electronic permitting on behalf of the Standing Committee. At the 18th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, they adopted decisions 18125 and 18128 on electronic systems and information technologies, and decisions 18129 to 131 on authentication and control of permits. Parties were called upon making use of and consider the available guidance documents for implementing e-permitting systems, calling on donor agencies to support their activities in this regard, and to use the collaboration between management authorities and national customs and border control agencies to implement an efficient risk-based control system and inform the Secretariat about these efforts. The Standing Committee and the Secretariat were tasked to continue collaboration with international partners and standard-setting bodies to facilitate the access of parties to e-permitting systems, to increase the efforts for implementing data exchange procedures, to continue efforts in harmonizing data standards, and to support parties in efforts of traceability in relation with e-permitting, and to build capacity in parties and to make recommendations for revision of Resolution CONF 12.3 on permits and certificates, Resolution CONF 1117 on national reports, and the guidelines for the preparation and submission of CITES annual reports. The Secretariat was tasked, amongst others, to organize, in collaboration with the WCO and other relevant partners, an international workshop on modern customs procedures for improved control of trade in CITES-listed species, and to commission an in-depth study on permit authentication and control. Immediately after the closure of CoP18, the Standing Committee formed a working group with the support of the Secretariat to perform a lot of these tasks. Just a second. The results of all these activities are described in paragraphs 3 to 21 of the present document. I would like to highlight just a few of them. A workshop on CITES electronic permit information exchange (EPIX) for parties from the UNEC and UNESCAP region was organized. The workshop exchanged information on electronic cross-border exchange of CITES permits and aimed to kick off EPIX pilots between interested CITES parties. Following the workshop, UNEC and UNESCAP established an EPIX task force to provide a forum to share experiences and information in this regard and to network with other interested parties. The CITES Secretariat carried out the in-depth study on permit authentication and control, which is available upon request from the CITES Secretariat. The study was organized around the 4 pillars of the e-CITES implementation framework: permit issuance, border control, reporting, and inter-country permit data exchange. Resulting from this analysis and discussions in the working group and at the meeting of the Standing Committee, the Standing Committee proposes a range of changes to Resolution CONF 12.3 in Annex 1, as well as a proposal to insert a new paragraph in Resolution CONF 11.3 Ref COP 18 on compliance and enforcement in order to encourage greater cooperation between customs and CITES authorities, and this is contained in Annex 2. In addition, the Standing Committee agreed to submit draft decisions to explore possible alternatives to physical endorsement of permits and certificates at export, as well as decisions to follow up issues that could not yet be resolved in the working group. These are contained in the Annexes 3 and 4 of this document. So the Conference of Parties is invited to adopt the proposed amendments to Resolution CONF 12.3 Ref COP 18 on permits and certificates as contained in Annex 1, to adopt the proposed amendments to Resolution CONF 11.3, Ref COP 18 on compliance and enforcement as contained in Annex 2, adopt the draft decision on risk assessment and analysis in Annex 3, adopt the draft decision on electronic systems and information technology in Annex 4, and delete decisions 18125 to 18128 and 18130 to 18131. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Switzerland. I will open the floor. I'd like to see if we can get through this document this afternoon. Parties who have, I've opened the floor. I will take the United Arab Emirates, followed by Australia. United Arab Emirates.
Thank you, Chair. The United Arab Emirates would like to thank this Standing Committee for preparing this document. The UAE has digitalized all services provided to the public to facilitate their needs and maintain the public health through the use of the modern and advanced systems, with maintaining the delivery of high-quality services confidentially and accurately. All CITES-related services was made electronic in the country since 2002. Recently, the United Arab Emirates launched the CITES digital certificate, which issued digitally with a digital signatures and QR code. In order to enhance the security of the CITES digital certificates, all accounts are linked to the applicant national ID, as well as certificates are linked to the digital certificates and permit hub to verify the authenticity and validity of the certificates. The UAE is ready to share its experience with all parties that want to work on the digital CITES digital transformations. We welcome the proposed amendment to the Resolution 12.3. However, in regard to the paragraph T, point 2, we have some concern regarding how this could be implemented, as receiving information from the importing party when a document has been used requires electronic linkage with all CITES parties' electronic system, and that would be difficult to apply for security purpose as well as the technical purpose. How would the imported countries be able to inform in a timely manner exported parties if these certificates has been used? Therefore, we propose a minor amendment of deleting it until we find a way to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, United Arab Emirates. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. We would like to thank Switzerland for their very capable chairing of this working group. Australia supports the adopting of the recommendations. In particular, Australia is pleased that the working group has agreed that electronic systems can support parties in regulating legal trade and combating illegal trade, and in monitoring the legality and sustainability of the trade. Thank you.
Thank you, Australia. I will take Niger, followed by the European Union, and followed by the United States. Niger, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, le Niger remercie la Suisse pour avoir présenté ce document au nom du secrétariat. Cette nouvelle avancée dans le cadre de la CITES est très importante et ça permet non seulement de lutter contre la fraude, mais aussi ça permet aussi de lutter contre les falsifications des documents CITES. Le Niger s'inscrit dans la démarche telle indiquée et demande aussi à la CITES de pouvoir capaciter les autres pays qui n'ont pas pu développer ce système afin que ce système puisse être adopté de manière continue dans les pays qui n'ont pas ce système. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Niger. European Union.
Thank you, Chair. The EU and its member states agreed with the amendment to Resolution CONF 12.3 11.3 on permits and certificates, and to Resolution CONF 11.3 on compliance and enforcement. And also with the decision proposed on risk assessment and analysis, and on electronic system and information technology. We acknowledge the progress made in the working group so far, and we support continuation of further group within the working group. We support also the electronic endorsement of CITES document at point of export. We would like to signal also the importance to take into account the interoperability with systems which are organized over a hub architecture in the CITES implementation framework, the CITES permitting and guidance, as well in the specification for electronic permit information exchange of CITES certificate named as. We fully support this by custom of in permitting database of management authorities and the electronic provision by customs. Thank you.
Thank you, European Union. United States.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The United States values the collaborative nature of the working group and the progress that it's made on issues related to the transition from entirely paper-based to the option of electronic CITES permitting and reporting systems. We support all the recommendations in the document, including the Secretariat's comments, with the exception of the Secretariat's proposed additional amendments in paragraph C of their comments to the instructions and explanations of the standard permit form and of the model traveling exhibition certificate. The proposed edits were carefully discussed in the work group to give flexibility, and the additional edits are not needed and are problematic in the case of partially completed permits where a place for a signature is required pursuant to Resolution CONF 12.3, paragraph 22, little b, 3.3, III, big C. Further, we'd like to call attention to our information document, CoP19F18, consideration of additional efficiencies in the movement of musical instruments for non-commercial purposes, in order to open the discussion to explore any opportunities for greater efficiencies in the non-commercial movement of musical instruments. The United States proposes amending the draft decisions found in Annex 4 to include the following direction to the Standing Committee. And I will read it out. It's 19BB little x. Consider ways in which electronic CITES permitting systems can simplify procedures for the non-commercial movement of musical instruments. Thank you, Chair.
United States, may I just have that last paragraph, little x, once more, please?
Sure. Consider ways in which electronic CITES permitting systems can simplify procedures for the non-commercial movement of musical instruments.
Thank you, United States. Did you have anything? No. The floor. So with 10 minutes, I can take interventions from some of the parties on my list, but it's clear to me that we will not be able to conclude this item today. So I will take the parties in the order that I have them for as long as I can, and then I would propose that we consider this more fully tomorrow. So Democratic Republic of the Congo, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, de la parole. Je remercie les auteurs de ce document qui a été préparé par les comités permanents. Et mon pays soutient les projets de décision qui sont contenus pour modifier la résolution CONF 12.3 sur le premier certificat. Et je voulais signaler que mon pays utilise tout récemment, depuis l'année 2020, le système électronique qui nous permet de gérer tous les processus de permis, qu'il est disposé également à partager avec les autres États. Donc j'aimerais soutenir également les amendements qui ont été apportés par les États-Unis sur ces documents. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Democratic Republic of Congo. Benin, you have the floor.
Okay. Merci Madame la Présidente. Donc le Bénin voudrait joindre sa voix à l'ensemble des autres pays qui ont soutenu donc, ce document. Et étant donné que des pays comme le Bénin sont à l'étape embryonnaire des questions de dématérialisation de toutes les procédures, même administratives, au niveau des pays, donc ce serait bien également que les pays ou les parties qui ont pu évoluer donc, dans ce système de permis CITES puissent partager leurs expériences. Et le Bénin voulait donc recommander dans la mesure du possible qu'il puisse être organisé un atelier ou même une séance d'information, ne serait-ce qu'en ligne, pour que ces pays puissent partager donc leurs expériences avec les autres parties. Merci Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Benin. I think we take your suggestion. Guinea, you have the floor.
Merci Madame la Présidente. Je pense que la mise en place du système électronique et l'authentification des permis est un grand avantage pour nous qui sommes sous sanction actuellement. Non seulement ça permettra de faire une traçabilité des produits, leur provenance, et ça permet de réduire considérablement tout ce qui est lié aux fraudes. Donc la Guinée s'aligne parfaitement derrière ce processus et comme l'a souligné déjà mon confrère du Bénin, on voudrait que la duplication soit faite au niveau des pays qui ne sont pas encore en possession de cette méthodologie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Guinea. Might squeeze in one or two more. Peru, you have the floor.
Gracias, señor presidente. Yo apoyo la propuesta de decisiones presentadas dado que contiene compromisos de evaluaciones de riesgo para desarrollar perfiles específicos para los especímenes de especies incluidas en los apéndices de las CITES, que son frecuentemente objeto de comercio tanto exportadas como importadas, ayudando a las labores de control e intercambio de información y repercutir en la actualización de los aspectos de control y trazabilidad. Gracias.
Thank you, Peru. Kenya, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kenya would like to thank the Standing Committee for preparing this document 41. Kenya also commends the work done by the intersessional working group established by the Standing Committee to move the work on information technologies. Madam Chair, Kenya would like to report that we have developed our electronic permitting system and we are currently in the process of piloting it. Once this system is fully automated, Madam Chair, it will embrace the 3 pillars of the CITES implementation framework and will tap into the benefits of multi-agency border control through the national single window system. Kenya would be looking forward to working with other parties that have advanced in this area so that we can learn and further develop our system. Madam Chair, we have looked at the proposed amendments to Resolution 12.3 on permits and certificates, and we consider that we would request an amendment to Annex 1 in paragraph 3D and request that parties approve or consider an amendment to that part by inserting the word consider immediately after the permits and the certificates, and also including adopting in that sentence the standards recommended in the CITES electronic permitting toolkit. Madam Chair, we consider this not all parties are at the same level of technological advancement, and quite a number of parties, and more so in the developing countries, including Africa. Most of us, we are using paper permits, and we may require time to finally automate our systems, just like we have indicated for Kenya. We have also looked at the same resolution and the proposed amendment, there is a proposed deletion of paragraph T and the U in the resolution COP 12.3, Rep COP 18, again on CITES and permits, and is contained in Annex 1, and we are of the opinion that considering that Kenya's CITES permitting system is still fully all paper, it will be, and so it is the case with most of the developing countries, majority of them in Africa, we would ask that these parties will need time to develop their permitting systems to full automation. And therefore, we object to the deletion of the two paragraphs, T and the U, and request that further discussion and the parties, further discussion be held, that parties do not yet have their electronic permitting system developed, be given time to put in place their systems for that, so that it will allow such parties to continue playing their role in regulating trade in the CITES listed specimens. Madam Chair, we support the adoption of the draft decisions as presented in the Annex 19AA, the decisions 19AA, 19BB, and 19CC on the risk assessment and analysis as presented in Annex 3. Finally, Madam Chair, Kenya would support the deletion of decision 18.125 to 128, 18.128, and 18.13 to 18.131, as we consider that these decisions have been implemented. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kenya. I had hoped that I might get to the point where I could sum up in a few minutes, but I think now we have a few different amendments that I might need to reflect on before I feel capable of doing that, and acknowledging that it's 2 minutes to 5 and not wanting to take the time of the interpreters if I'm not in a position to do that. I have 3 more parties requesting the floor, but I will have to take you tomorrow, I'm afraid, when we come back to this matter. So I would encourage anyone else who has thoughts on this to come prepared with them tomorrow, because I'd like to just come to this quickly, consolidate the amendments that we've heard, and hopefully take a decision. So in Committee 2 tomorrow morning, before we come back to this document, to document 41, I'd indicated earlier that I would take groups of COM documents. So tomorrow morning I will take COM 6, role of CITES in reducing risk of future zoonotic disease emergence associated with international wildlife trade, document 23. COM 7, review of the National Ivory Action Plan process from document 66.7, and I will take revisions to resolution COP 1710 on conservation of and trade in pangolins. First thing tomorrow. Those 3 documents have been published on the CITES website in all 3 languages for more than 1 session, so we are in a position to do that tomorrow morning. Looking at what is then published, as I noted, we've got almost 10 more COM docs to go to. In the afternoon session, I would be aiming to at least take COM 9, as long as it is translated in time for the morning session tomorrow, because I note that they are only in English at this point in time. I would aim to take sustainable financing for the conservation of elephants and other wildlife, COM 9, and COM 10, specimens produced through biotechnology. So I will give you an update on those in the morning session. If they are translated by tomorrow morning, I will take them in the afternoon session. A reminder that Committee 1 has their night session from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. this evening, so please be on time for Committee 1 if you're attending that session. Likewise, tomorrow we have a very, very big agenda ahead of us. Please be here at 9 a.m. at the absolute latest so that we can start. Tomorrow is our last day in Committee 2, so we have to adopt all of the COM docs from the working groups, drafting groups and parties that have gone away and produced those for us. And we also have to complete, well, just one more item from today and all of tomorrow's agenda. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Enjoy your evenings and your evening sessions. See you at 8:45. Secretariat. Technicians, can you give the Secretary on the podium the floor, please? Podium 2.
Please don't forget your voting cards in the machines. Thank you very much.